of the Board of Fire Commissioners, Cotuit Fire District. In attendance, Commissioner Pisano.
Commissioner Conley.
Commissioner Zace.
Chief Pruitt.
Very good. I just want to announce in advance of anything else that we are going to continue to try to figure out the mechanics of enabling both live and Zoom meetings in the upcoming months. I don't know how we will handle maximum capacity. If we get to do it, we may need to have attendance by reservation up to whatever our maximum will be, and then the option of attending via Zoom. But that's to be worked out. We still have to resolve the problems about visibility and sound recording. But I just wanted people to know that we are still trying to make that possible. Well, I have received no notice that anyone is recording. So I'd like to begin with public comment. In the absence of public comment, we should proceed to review previous
Cynthia Gardner,
meeting.
94 School Street.
Yeah, Cindy, go ahead.
Hi, I'd just like to ask if we could have public comment move to the end again.
Fine.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
The review and approval of previous meeting minutes. The minutes are rather fragmentary because of our sound recording problems last month. The transcription is the best approximation. I've gone over it and could not contribute much by way of improving the reconstruction. Have both of you had a chance to look at it?
Yep.
Were you able to come up with anything?
No, I'm in the same boat that you are, Rick.
Yeah, I would concur. I looked at it as best it could be looked at, so.
Okay.
I mean,
I would
despite all the
suggest that-
inaudible, it's a lot of stuff that was inaudible. So it's hard to piece specific memories to the inaudible stuff. So.
Right, I went back through my notes and couldn't come up with anything particularly relevant to add back in.
Commissioner Pisano,
Yeah,
was anybody recording at that particular meeting?
not that I was informed.
Okay, thank you.
If there were any other independent recordings that could add material, please notify myself or the chief. In lieu of that, I would make a motion that we accept the minutes as they are
Second.
written. No further discussion. Vote in favor. Pisano.
Conley,
Zace.
Fine, let's adopt those. And if other material comes up, we can go back and review it. Chief, the floor is yours for the chief's report.
Or the sound quality is not great here. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay. So the responses for last month, total of 58 responses, 45 medicals, 1 hazardous condition, and 12 service good intent or false alarm calls. Administration, our PPE supply remains good. The COVID update, we still have not had a positive COVID with the Cotuit address since April 10th. So doing good there.
hey, Chief, quick question. Do you have a perspective on Barnstable and the Cape in general right now?
Barnstable County saw a significant, what I think is a significant increase over the last couple of weeks. They went from, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but in the range of 12 every 3-day period to around 40, I believe. So there's been an increase in Barnstable County. I'm not sure about the town of Barnstable. I haven't been monitoring the total numbers.
How about the hospital, Chief? The hospitals, have any perspective on where they're at?
They're still got very low numbers. So Cape Cod and Falmouth Hospital, I don't have the current report in front of me, but they have 1 or 2 COVID patients is what they've been reporting. So not a very high admission rate for COVID patients at this time.
I saw a report in today's paper that both hospitals reported 0
Yeah,
as
so
of last night.
That's
been-
very useful.
It's been 1, 2 to 0. It's been very low for the Cape.
Great. Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it. Thanks, Rick.
Good. I also want to report the Assistant Treasurer, Lisa Haven, has done a lot of work over the past couple months to seek reimbursement from Medicare and Medicaid for ambulance runs. So this is the first time Cotuit Fire District has done this. Some of the other districts have done it in the past. This is our first year. Lisa took a significant amount of time and put together sheets that showed all our unreimbursed costs from Medicare and Medicaid. So when we transport a Medicare or Medicaid patient, which is about half of our calls, to the hospital, we get reimbursed by the state approximately $300 to $400, or the feds. So it's our cost to provide the service is significantly higher than what we get reimbursed. So annually, we have the ability, and Lisa's done a great job this year, of requesting additional funds. So she takes into account all of our additional expenses, including training for firefighters, depreciation on equipment. And this year she was able to recoup $33,544. So $33,544. So that goes into the general fund. That's a significant achievement and fairly significant for the Cotuit Fire District.
That's excellent.
Yeah, that's great, Chief.
Go ahead.
No, just saying, that's great.
Yeah, she's also working on Lisa and Ray are also working on FEMA reimbursement for our COVID expenses. And they would be working with the town to recoup additional costs from the money the town has received from reimbursement from the state. So they're all working on that. No dollar figures or updates now on that. I put a capital plan.
Is it, excuse me, that is discretionary to the town. The
Yeah,
town
so
could shut
should be
us out if they
receiving-
wanted to.
yeah, we should be receiving about 75% reimbursement for our direct COVID costs from FEMA, MEMA. But then
As
the
a
town
town?
also,
Is that you mean the town, right?
no, we get the 75% directly from MEMA and FEMA grant money. The town also receives federal funds that they have the ability to disperse to the districts. So the treasurer is working with the town finance to possibly recoup their additional 25% of our cost from them. So we potentially receive 100% reimbursement for all our COVID expenses.
Well, here's hoping.
So they're working on it. I attached a capital plan to the cloud file. It's the same vehicle plan, but it breaks up the facilities potential expenses into different categories, including septic, paving, roofing, interior renovations. It's an approximation of what our expenses might be over the next, I think I did it out about 35 years.
Right.
So it's
Yeah, I was looking at that. I appreciate the work you put into it. I think that's good information to have compiled. And did I understand that you will be posting that on our website?
yeah, I'll post that on the website. If anybody has any additions or information I'd like added to it or any changes, let me know.
Very good.
Open Cape status. So finally, we've got fiber in our building from Open Cape. The Open Cape came in, ran fiber to our building and to the water tower for the police department at the same time, which significantly cut our costs. So we have fiber in the building. Open Cape representative should be in any day to actually put the modem, I guess you'd call it, to connect our internet, our wireless feed to the Open Cape system. So we're still on Comcast as of today, but should be switching over very shortly.
If it goes smoothly, we will be able to drop that Comcast connection and expense.
Yes, we'll be able to drop the Comcast, and we'll be looking at a voice over IP phone system too, to see if we can get a better phone system, hopefully with more features and hopefully at a lower cost, although I don't think there's much of a difference in cost. So we'll be looking at that as well.
Chief, we wouldn't be dropping Comcast 100%, would we?
Would we be dropping Comcast 100%?
I'm just wondering, there's a TV in the station, so I would, were you planning on going internet TV? Is that what the thought was, or is it going to be a Comcast connection of some sort?
So the fire department pays for the Comcast internet connection only, data. The union covers the cost of the TV in the day room. That's
Now
not
you say that,
cost.
now that you say that, I do recall that. Thank you very much. Yep.
The other change we made to internet connection is hotspot. So we used to have Verizon hotspots in our vehicles. So there was a hotspot in the engine in the ambulance, and it was used for mapping, forwarding calls to vehicles, and patient care reports in the ambulance. So when they're treating a patient, they're able to connect to the cloud database for our patient information and upload and download. We had Verizon. The modems were getting slightly old. Connection speed wasn't that great. FirstNet, which is a government created plan that AT&T has implemented. So it's an AT&T created system that allows government organizations to connect at high speed with priority. So if the system ever gets overloaded, so if the regular phone system goes down due to power loss or storms or transmission wires down, FirstNet gives priority to government accounts. So our ambulances and engines now have priority over anybody else, any other data feed if there was a high usage event. So our costs are lower. I think we're paying about $35 for 2 vehicles now, which should save us about $100 a month over the Verizon cost. So cost went down, speed went up, and the connection reliability went up. So Pete put those in. Peter, firefighter Emerson, put those in service this week. So those are up and running. Mm-hmm. Training, the guys are still working on the vent enter search training at 56 High Street, which will be happening, I believe, next month. When I get a date, I will forward it to everybody and make sure we have video up and running that we can post to our website as well. The EMS, Pro EMS report was for July was attached. For personnel, we still have 1 out on IOD back injury. We believe that person will be due back. High confidence they'll be back September 3rd. Firefighter or Matt Judge, who we've voted provisional, offering a position as a call firefighter. He's scheduled to take his PAT test. So we're waiting for his physical agility test through the state. And once completion of that, he will be appointed to the call department. So hopefully that'll happen shortly. Apparatus, the new CAR 261 is still on order. That should be about a month out. No other reports on vehicles or apparatus. Facilities, we're still working on getting quotes for security indoors, but not much new to report. And that's all I have for the chief's report.
Chief, can I go back to one question, just
Yes.
on the COVID coverage? Do we have to apply to FEMA and MEMA, or do you handle that, or does the town do that, or how does that work?
So we have to apply to MEMA through MEMA and FEMA, the 75% reimbursement for our COVID expenses. The treasurer and assistant treasurer are putting together the application package. So yes, it's an application. There's no reason I don't think to expect we will not get the 75% reimbursement. We had an online conference call with a representative from MEMA a couple of weeks ago, and they gave us the details on how to put in for it and what was qualified and what wouldn't qualify. So we should be good. It's just going to take a little time to get that done. Okay.
So you expect those the application to go in soon?
The application, I believe, is going to go into the next month. I'll have to double check with the treasurer and assistant treasurer what their schedule is. And then I
I'm not
think
just
after
trying
we,
to get a back of the envelope understanding of when.
yeah, these funds go directly back to the general fund. So they don't come to,
No.
for our use or disbursement, but it goes to reimburse the district for
Right.
last year's and any current year's expenses, COVID expenses. And then the Barnstable was eligible, only towns are eligible for the other grant reimbursement, which they are discussing reimbursement to the districts for some of their expenses.
Okay, thanks.
Hey, Chief, backing up to the facilities for a second, reference the locks. I think I heard you say not much progress on that one.
No, no, not much progress. I'll get on that ASAP and see what I can get done. I know there's a high priority on that. Just been busy with other stuff this summer, so I'll get right on that.
No, I get that. And if you would just, let me know if I can do anything to help push that along.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
All right.
Moving to old business, I'd like to take these out of order and start with letters of appreciation to firefighters Emerson and Clark. We had discussed this at a previous meeting. Do we have those letters? Have they been made available?
I put both letters on the cloud file for you guys to have.
Yep.
I didn't place them there till later this afternoon, so I don't know if you've had a chance to read them.
I've had
I
a
have-
chance to read them both.
They look good,
I
Chief.
have not seen them. Kevin, did you say, I'm sorry. cut you
Yeah,
off.
I have. They look good. They look good. So, thank you, Chief.
All right, with
I
your
will-
permission, I'll send those off to the individuals, to firefighter Pete Emerson and acting Lieutenant Shane Clark.
That's fine by me. I will take my co-commissioners' words for it that they express our sentiments. And let's
Yes,
Get
they're
it.
fine. They're fine. One thing I would, I think they're fine, and I'm all for this. I want us to, it's probably worth just saying, Chief, we want to always look for those special opportunities rather than placing letters for routine things. I feel that over time it has the possibility of cheapening the letter, the appreciation. But that said, these look fine.
I 100% agree with you. We haven't done very many of these. This particular instance, firefighter Emerson took it upon himself to find a solution to a scheduling software problem that we had, got quotes, talked to companies, implemented, trained,
Yep,
none of which is in his job description. So
No, and
firefighter Clark, he
Right.
made the transition to a records management system with image trend, which significantly cut our costs. We were looking at $20,000 to $30,000 in it for a new records management system.
Right.
He was able to get us up and running in a week with using a new module for existing systems. So
right, and that's why I'm fully behind these.
Okay.
Very good.
But they do look fine, Rick.
Great. We've already discussed the capital plan sheet that you put together and the fact that it will be available to the public on the website. I had no further comment about that. Either of you?
No.
Further comment.
So the next significant item of old business is the contract for the deputy chief position. We have presented last December to the Prudential Committee our desire to have our 13th position. And after some experimenting with how that would work, by our presentation to Prudential in March, we had narrowed that down to this deputy chief position. And in both cases, Prudential gave us the requisite approval. So we've been operating on an active basis since then. The contract draft that you received to examine would be the next step to making this a filled position. Where would you like to start in your discussion of it? Either?
I'm trying to get to that.
that directed at us or to the
Yes.
chief?
No, to you.
Okay, thank you. So I did do a review of it, put a few questions in here. I think it looks, I think it looks very good. I think it's some significant changes from the last one, so I appreciate that. I do come to the question and the conversation about a couple things under 7.0 leave. Specifically 7.1 to start with, we're going to allow for 10 days to be carried each year. So that's a maximum carry of 10. So it wouldn't be, okay, I got 40 and now I can carry another and I have 50 as an example. It's a maximum per year, right? So we're going to top that out at all, or we're going to let that continue to accrue?
We haven't really discussed putting a ceiling on the accrual amount.
Okay.
The
That's what I-
vacation accrual, is that what we're talking about?
Right. So in
So
other
they
words,
can-
as it stands now, and I'm not going to say this would happen, as it stands now, somebody doesn't take, say, saves 10 days, right? Next year, the person has 40 days, and let's say the person doesn't take any vacation the following year, then they can accrue 10 more. Now they have 50 days sitting on the books.
Couldn't happen. They can only carry 10 days. So the deputy chief gets 30 days of vacation. If he or she had 10 days to carry July 1st, they could carry 10. So the most they could ever have at one time is 40 days.
Yep. Okay, I'm good there. You're absolutely right. And then the only other one was with regards to sick time and the fact that we're talking about 25% payback or 25% buyback after a maximum of 200 days. So that would mean ultimately there could be 50 days. There could be 50 days on the books or 200 days on the books, which would mean 50 payback, correct?
If
Okay.
if you hired someone at a very young age and they could get up to 200 days,
Absolutely.
right.
And I'm
It's
just-
not possible with the current people we're talking about. If I get this contract or the current person up for deputy gets it, there's no way either of us would ever get anywhere close to that.
Right, and I'm more concerned about the precedents, Chief,
Right.
than I am that particular part of the conversation. So if I look at that, as best I can figure, that's a liability of about $22,000 at the current contract rate.
Could be.
Okay, so to me, I don't, this is not a union position, right? This is a managerial position. I personally have the same opinion as I had with the administrative side of the house, right? I don't see us guaranteeing sick days as a payback personally. So as I look at it, I do have some concerns there. I think from my perspective, as I look through it, I think those are the that was the one item that jumped out at me. I did see reference to the fact that you're going to come back to the Board of Commissioners with the review, the evaluation of the deputy chief and present it. So I think that's goodness. I think that's a little bit of a change from what we had previously or what I thought was a change. So
Yes.
that's the primary concern I have, is that carry of time. Thank you, Commissioner Fasano.
Commissioner Zais?
I want to make sure that I'm looking at the proper draft. So is this the draft dated that is dated is from like roughly the end of July 27th?
This file was modified. Well, I modified it today, I guess, with a typo. It was the one that was put in the cloud file. It should be in this month's cloud file.
So I went to there and I didn't, I saw all the other contracts, not this one. So
Okay, so
I guess
The
I'm
link-
looking at the older one.
the link I sent you was for I thought you wanted the union
Yeah.
contract.
Yep. No, you did. Thank you.
Okay, so the
but-
deputy's contract isn't in that file. It should be it's in the monthly info for August 11th commissioner meeting.
Okay,
It should be titled Deputy Chief Contract Revision, August 11th.
I think it's the 10th one down, Adam. 10th
Yep.
item down in that grouping.
Okay, now I see it. All right. So I can't have any comment because I was looking at the wrong one. My apologies, Chief and Chairman Pisano.
The item that Commissioner Conley was raising.
So yeah, I see point 7 or section 7. Yeah.
Right, sub 1 and sub 2 were the two areas.
Yeah, sub 1 I'm fine with. I appreciate the clarification there. Sub 2 is, I think, where my my primary concern is.
Kevin, the contract as structured is a 3-year contract with the option for a 4th year rollover, at which point we're in a position of having to make a decision about a new contract, either with the same person or someone else. So at a maximum, the person occupying that position could only accumulate a total of 60 days if they use no sick days all 4 years.
45 days.
Yeah.
Well, if the 4th year.
Oh,
If the 4th year were invoked.
Right.
Right.
Within that context, 60 days, a quarter of that, we're talking about 15 days on a buyout.
So to Kevin's point and to your line of questioning, why wouldn't we modify the contract to account for what we believe is the reality of the situation? As opposed to Kevin's point about precedent, the wording could be 45 or 60.
In the line, unused sick days may be accrued up to a maximum.
Yeah.
I'd be hesitant to reduce what you could carry. So if you had a person in the position, you want to encourage them to save their time and not use it to accommodate a serious injury they would have. I have no problem limiting the payout or even eliminating it if that's what you want to do. But if you were to have someone in a deputy's chief position for 10 years, they're incentivized to not use their sick time as basically a medical insurance policy in case they have a significant injury. So I know what you're saying. Maybe you could add another line that limits the payout or eliminates the payout.
Chief, what you're suggesting is potentially leave the ability to carry, but have no payout on it.
Yeah, that if somebody wants to make that motion or that change, that's fine. I would rather that than limiting the ability to accumulate.
I would tend to support that, not limiting the ability to accumulate, because the risk of a catastrophic illness is always there. And it would be, I think, appropriate for the person to have the possibility of accumulating enough to carry a substantial portion of it.
So I personally would be good with the ability to accrue up to the 200. So I'd be good with that, with the striking of the 25% payout personally.
Are we I'm a little confused about the difference between injury and sick. So
you're right. So if any one of the firefighters or a chief or deputy were injured at work, they would be on IOD and they would not be, sick time would not be taken away. The injury time would be used if they get injured off duty, get in a car accident, not associated with work, fall off a ladder at home on their own time, doing their own private business. Then they would need sick time to continue to get a paycheck until they're capable of coming back and assuming their duties again.
And what's the rationale for the accumulation to 200?
This was a copy over from the union contract. So this is identically to what the firefighters already received as a benefit. That's why we went with this. I guess the rationale is that you know, specifically for the firefighters, when they get injured, they're not able to come back to work, not able to assume their duties until they're 100% capable of performing the job of a firefighter. So if they do get hurt off duty, they're incentivized to let their sick time build up enough to give them a cushion to get back to work again.
So this is a contract for, in this case, a specific, not only a deputy, but a specific deputy.
This contract is for a specific person, right? And,
Right.
and if we take the same contract and change the name to chief and make it for me eventually, it's specific to us. And you can change it if you hire someone else in the future. It would be negotiated specific to that person. So specific to the current person that's looking to be deputy and myself, there is no way either one of us would ever get close to 200 days. I think I've been there 3 years. So if you,
Yep.
I will never get over 100 days. That's just not possible. And the current deputy will never get over 60 days. I don't think it's not a possibility. So you could easily specifically limit it to 50 days or 60 days. And
Yeah, I know that it's probably inappropriate to mix sort of the business with this kind of thing, but in my view, the contract should be specific to the situation at hand, not general. And so I'm in favor of both Kevin's suggestion of removing the payout and limiting the number of days to the specific time that we're talking about for this, you know, for Joe's contract. That's what I would want. Another contract could be different.
Yeah, let me introduce another variable. By and large, the candidates for a deputy position are going to be people that have come up through the ranks. And I'm not comfortable with the idea that we're asking somebody to assume a higher level of responsibility in a position where they actually lose ground compared to what they had available in a union contract. That doesn't seem to me to be an incentive for the best candidates to
well, they gain
go after
ground.
the
They gain
position.
ground in other ways. Higher rate of pay, less risk of injury potentially. You know, so I mean, I see where you're going, but I don't know if I agree with it.
Well, in terms of the higher rate of pay, when you consider that this position doesn't carry overtime, and when you look at what a number of our firefighters are able to make with longevity and education benefits and overtime, I don't think this constitutes I don't think the higher salary, base salary, constitutes a large incentive. Not if we're chipping away at other benefits.
Well, I think in part of it, I hear what you're saying. I would counter that a lot of what moving up in the fire department world, the firefighters world, is also about securing a better retirement for you know, based on your average rate of pay over the past few years, and as I understand it. So there are a lot of benefits to moving up beyond things like this. That said, that's just my opinion. My opinion would be to be really, really specific about the time that Joe's going to be, at least the 3 and potentially 4 years that we know about, and removing the payout. Now, that's just my opinion.
I look at this a little bit differently, just for the record. I don't look at this as being negotiated for a person. I look at this as being negotiated for a position. And I understand completely what's being said, that we can change, that we can change our position at some other point. But when you set a precedent, very often that precedent is difficult to change back from. And I don't know any place that is a non-union position that somebody gets paid for sick time when they leave. So there's a lot of pluses and minuses in all the conversation relative to what Commissioner Zay says about somebody moving up in a role. And the reality is, this one particular thing, I can't imagine would be the thing that would make somebody have a deciding factor on 25% payout, whether they take the role or not. I just think we should not put the village in a position where we expose it at some point in the future. That's where I'm coming from with it.
I agree with you, Kev.
So I do think the 200, you do the math quickly, it's, 5 weeks, right? So if somebody, is protected for 5 weeks because they're in the role, I think that's, as a maximum, I think that's more than reasonable. To your point, Chief, it's the current deputy or the temporary deputy is not going to get to that point, right? And perhaps potentially not. I don't know if he's going to get to that, depending on how many years he's in. But the fact of the matter is, again, I'm concerned to the precedent and the liability the village will have long term.
So just to be clear, I think you and I are in agreement that the sentence that begins upon retirement and then continues with the, it goes up to the in event of death, or includes that. That's what you're talking about? You would prefer that not to be there?
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. That's what I would strike. I'd leave the 200 days there. I think that's, again, personally, I think that's reasonable, and I'd just strike the payout.
And how was 200 days 5 weeks?
I'm sorry, my bad math. Other way. 200 days.
20 weeks.
20 weeks. My bad. Yep.
Okay.
But in
Well,
the particular individual cases for myself and the current acting deputy, it's not relative. And if it was a different person that was getting moved up, I would be fighting really hard for them to keep their days. And if that particular person had 150 days, I'd have a big problem with them losing sick time to take a promotion. But in this case, it's not relevant.
Point taken. Point taken. I mean, so in this case, there isn't and Joe's not coming with a bank.
No, and neither do I, because I've only been here 3 years. So,
But in a future contract with a future candidate, if it was someone who was coming with a substantial bank, the contract could be structured potentially
Sure.
to account for that.
yes.
So, right. And the thing is, you can always bring more in the future versus fighting against a precedence from the past.
Right.
If I may ask, are there any other areas that either of you have questions or concerns about?
So Commissioner Connolly, I agree with you. Chairman Pisano, I just want to go on record that I would prefer to have this contract be specific to since it is a contract for a specific person, to be specific to that's what I would prefer. But the discussion I think has been had.
Commissioner Pisano, to answer your question directly, I have no other concerns.
Then,
Let me rephrase. I don't either, beyond what I've expressed.
all right, then I would entertain a motion to modify the draft of this contract to strike the last two sentences of section 7.2, which begins with upon retirement and goes through to the death benefit payout.
Can we take that as the motion and give you a second?
You may.
Second.
If there's no further discussion, then I would like to take a vote on that motion to modify this draft of the contract. Those in favor?
Conley?
Zace?
And those opposed, Pisano. So the motion passes. The draft will be modified to strike the last two sentences of section 7.2 And I would now like to make a motion that we accept the modified draft as a contract that we would like to present to the acting deputy chief as a contract of employment.
Second,
Any further discussion on that motion?
So
No.
this motion is going to offer the full-time deputy chief position to acting deputy chief Pouliot with a 3-year contract as voted on previous.
Correct.
Okay.
Those in favor?
Conley,
Well, I think
Zano?
to be consistent, I'll vote against it just because of what I said earlier.
The motion carries 2-1. This draft with the modification of section 7.2 will be offered to acting deputy Pouliot as a contract of employment. Okay. Chief, can you get a modified, an edited version congruent with those motions to present to acting deputy Pouliot?
I will get that. And assuming he accepts it, I will get it to all 3 of you for signatures.
Very good.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
thanks, Chief.
The next area is new business. On the assumption that acting deputy Pouliot will accept the contract, we will have an opening for promotion to lieutenant within the ranks. And I would like to discuss procedure going forward in that.
Do we have any historical precedent relative to this conversation?
I'm not sure historical precedent. I guess you've got a couple choices. We've had a promotional exam. We have 2 people currently on the lieutenant's list. We have the current acting lieutenant, Shane Clark, and we have firefighter Peter Emerson on the promotional list for lieutenant. The choices in front of you now are you can take the acting position and make it permanent, or to any one of the 2, or you can do interviews for the 2 firefighters that we have on the acting list. And following the interviews, you can make a decision on promotion.
And that assumes that both candidates would be interested in
Correct.
being considered.
I would be interested in that, if that's okay with you, Chairman Pisano, Commissioner Conley, Chief Rude.
Well, our job is to figure out how we want to proceed. So that's, I think that's a pretty appropriate process also. Kevin?
I concur.
Then let us arrange to put on the docket for next month to, let's see, I guess that would be done in executive session. So the next month's agenda will include an executive session to interview candidates for the lieutenant position.
Could I just suggest, Chairman Pisano, that we obviously confirm that both parties are still interested in interviewing for the role, so that we're prepared next week if to have next month to have the interview, or to be prepared for a vote if it becomes that. If both
But I
are.
think I would like the interviews even if it's only one candidate.
Either way, you're absolutely right. I agree. Good point. Like the heads up though, if only one is going to be interviewing.
Right.
And just to go back, these both or one or both of these candidates did take the test? And if so, when?
Both of them
Yes.
took the promotional exam last fiscal year and passed.
Okay, thanks.
All right. I've already touched in new business to our intention to continue to try to create a circumstance for simultaneous Zoom and live meetings. I don't know if we're going to be able to have this put together for September, but I do want to have a discussion with my fellow commissioners about, even if we get the mechanics of it worked out, the governor's restrictions on numbers and the space available within Freedom Hall would limit us to a relatively small number of live attendees. I don't know how we proceed in the event that more people than available seating show up. We would be, without a pre-established policy, we'd be in a position of having to cancel the meeting. I had mentioned earlier that I had a thought, if we can get the mechanics working well enough, that we could post on the website an invitational sign up for people who might be interested in attending the meeting live. And if the number exceeds the available seating, that people will know in advance and be invited to attend via Zoom. Be interested in hearing your thoughts about that.
I think
So,
that's a great suggestion, Chairman Pisano. Sorry, Kevin. It sort of speaks to a lot of the things that are going on, whether it's going to get ice cream at Polar Cave or going to a restaurant. I think that's the right thing to do.
I believe if you look at the governor's requirements right now, based on the square footage, I believe we're gonna have 16 people inside the Freedom Hall at any one point in time.
So that would leave 12 public seats.
Yes.
Or 11 if deputy is there.
Oh, that's right. Good thought. Yep. Kevin, any comments?
I was going to ask the question actually on the capacity, so I'm good there. We could obviously do the sign up. I'm okay with that. I think it's obvious that the odds of us getting past that number is slightly limited. And I would take it a step further. It's probably the easiest thing to do because, let's just do the sign up. I think that's the best way to do it to ensure that we're in good position.
Yeah.
Okay, with no promises that we'll have the mechanics worked out by September, we'll proceed with that as being our goal.
Yeah.
I have been asked by the Prudential Committee to have a representative to the Bylaw Committee for this coming year, and I'm willing to volunteer for that position if there are no objections.
None?
None noted. None.
Okay, that's my sword to fall on. The Prudential Committee, the next item is special district meeting. The Prudential Committee last night was moving towards a date for a special district meeting in regard to a water department request for funding for a vehicle. In the meantime, there has been some discussion that I've had with the chairman of the water department, the water commission, about the possibility of when the chief's new vehicle comes in, having them making available to them on a limited time basis the current vehicle that would go to the deputy chief because they need potentially capacity for their workers. And that would leave us in a position of asking the chief and deputy chief to share the new vehicle and when necessary, use their private vehicles and get mileage reimbursement. This is all just came up today. It was an open-ended discussion. The water commissioners have yet to talk about it as a group. The chairman indicated some interest in the possibility because they only want an additional vehicle for a limited amount of time, for as long as the COVID emergency statutes are in effect. So I floated the idea to Scott Horsley, and he's going to take it up with his commissioners. But I'm just interested in your thoughts about it. We had to fight at the annual district meeting to get the funding for a second vehicle, but the idea that we could save the district some money if for 9, 10, 12 months, we basically loaned them that second vehicle. They covered the expenses. And we went to a mileage reimbursement system in the short run. The numbers could be significant in terms of what it could save the district overall, but I don't know if we can work out the mechanics. So it was just an idea floated. I wanted to put it in front of the two of you, ask you for your own best thoughts and inputs.
So just to restate, see if I understand. You're suggesting that, as I was attended the last night's meeting as well, that instead of the Water Commission acquiring the vehicle for the $27,000 that they were, $28,000 that they were thinking about, they would forestall that investment potentially forever, because it sounded, what I heard you say is that the need was driven by something that would potentially, that need would go away at some point, so they don't really need a vehicle for a period of time. My only and then that, so that the old chief's vehicle would be the one that we're talking about.
Correct.
Just I don't know if it's a concern or a question. It's somewhat open-ended, and that's the only. Not sure. I mean, is there? Is it for a year? Is it for not 9 months? Just worried about that a little bit. And what is the? You're right. I suspect I can't do the math necessarily right here, but I would imagine that the per diem accumulate, the mileage per diem wouldn't accumulate to the point where it would be more than $27,000, let's say, in that period of time.
Right.
So it does sound like a good idea. The only concern I have is just I don't know if it's a concern. The only point I would make is that we don't know when it would end.
Correct.
I don't know if that's an issue. I guess I would turn that back to the chief.
Well,
Let me, if I may, a couple quick thoughts here. The chief's current vehicle, we are well aware, has some challenges, right? And there's some mechanical concerns. There have been some mechanical concerns with that. So I think we've made a decision that we're going to try to milk that vehicle for as long as we can, right?
Right.
And to me, that means you need to be fairly careful what gets put in it, taken out of it, and so forth and so on, and the type of usage it gets, number one. Number two, part of the conversation we had, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, of the advantage to having two vehicles was by having, rather than just doing mileage for the deputy, was that there was gear inside the truck, inside the deputy's vehicle, that would be available in the event of an emergency, that he'd be able to respond with that equipment, correct?
correct.
Okay, so if we were all of a sudden going to say, okay, you don't get that truck when it's time, you need to use your own, okay, he can respond, but he's not responding with any equipment necessarily because his own personal pickup in this particular case he'd be responding with, right?
Correct. The deputy and I both have personal vehicles we could use. We would have to find a way to put the equipment in our own personal vehicles, which would present a level of complication with radios and lights and other things.
Right.
It's just something we explored. The current vehicle. The current vehicle we're anticipating is about a 1 year useful life. The wire department is looking for a vehicle for 1 year. The idea is we could find a way to sacrifice a little bit to let them have that, be open-ended really, because we were only planning on using it for a year. and the deputy and I would find a way to share a vehicle back and forth and use personal vehicles at the same time. It's not ideal, but it was just floated as a way to save the district some money temporarily.
And I'm all for that. Absolutely, I am. I just get concerned if our intent is to have, you know, both yourself and the deputy be available as a critical situation might arise, whether we're limiting ourselves in that particular case. So I would just, Commissioner Rosano, there's obviously more talks that have to go on in this.
Certainly.
And, you know, be happy to continue the conversation. I wonder if there's any other alternatives that the water department could look at. I know that, just as a quick example, the chief has done a nice job of finding government surplus equipment in the past. I don't know if they've looked at that as an option at this point, right? And or whether or not they've looked at some kind of a short-term rental from a truck point of view. So again, food for thought. I just get concerned that we're not going to have the right resources available if we need them.
May I say one thing, Chairman? Commissioner Conley, that was a very well-reasoned and argument and points well taken. I too share your concern about shifting the availability of a resource that we thought we were going to have that was prepared to be a firefighting resource for the. So, but I also share your willing or openness to continue the discussion.
Well, when I made the original suggestion to Scott, it was very much understood that we were making no commitment. I was floating an idea. There would be a lot of specifics to be worked out. I share all your reservations about it. But when I listened at the Prudential meeting last night, Scott voiced a desire to go with a lease option, even though it could end up having them tied into a 3-year lease at considerable expense when they really only want a vehicle available for a year. Kevin, I think your question about both different rental options and or a surplus vehicle are things that they ought to pursue. But I just wanted we're not committed to anything. It was an idea that was floated. I appreciate your input, and I will certainly keep you apprised of what I hear back from them. They may share some of the same concerns and want to go a different way as well, but we certainly haven't made any commitments. Chief, there was a question with finance about other financing issues that might arise that would require a special district meeting. Did you get any further input about where that stands?
I guess I don't know the specifics. They're looking to refinance some of the debt that we have at a lower interest rate, and they thought it was more transparent to have the public vote on those funding options. I think they may have the ability to do it independent of a district meeting, but they, I think, wanted to bring it to the district and have them vote on the financing funding options.
So that would be a second item on this special district meeting.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it'd be one article or 2 articles they needed to move some money around. They overspent the budget, I think, in water and treasurer or Prudential due to COVID expenses. So they had to transfer some money to cover the overage. And at the same time, they wanted to refinance debt at a lower interest rate.
Okay. If there's no further discussion about any of those things, the last item on not the last item, second to the last item on my agenda are the SOGs that were circulated. I reviewed them. The one for social media, I would refer to people who are more knowledgeable about social media than I am. I'm very curious to hear your input about the draft on that. as far as I'm concerned, the ground ladder training and the vehicle operations module, as we got in the very last draft, that's the one that comes with the diagrams, the signaling diagrams. I didn't have any problem with either of those. I thought they were pretty straightforward. But
one humorous note, Chairman, is I had no idea that beeswax was used to maintain ladders, but so that was something I learned upon reading that. As to the, if I may address the social media piece, I mean, I think I understand the intent. It appeared that this was compiled, a compiled document. And Chief, I don't know if you noticed that there was a reference to the state of Tennessee down towards the end of the document. So I would ask that we go through this another time with a really fine-tooth comb to make sure that it's representing exactly what you're intending. But the intent, Chairman Pisano, was, I think, on the money. It just seemed a little cobbled together and perhaps could use some further editing, not necessarily a lengthy process, but just some rereading before it felt like something that we would want to approve sort of as is.
Commissioner Conlon?
So a couple of different thoughts. I think I think it was. I think all three of them were fairly interesting. I did send a note off to the deputy on the latter one, just on a couple of nits as far as formatting goes, as well as
Some spelling
on it. So I did send that off to him, and I'm sure he's addressing that. And then I did have an exchange with the deputy as well with regards to the social media, and it looks like that was taken from another department. So it was fairly interesting. I do agree with Commissioner Zace, and maybe a little bit more fine tuning has to go on with it, but I think it is a very good start and something that we probably do need to put in place. We do need to put in place. So, and then the backup one looked spot on.
If you're looking for any sort of recommendation, Chairman Pisano, I would say the backup and the ladder seem to be pretty close to acceptable. The other one, I would like an opportunity for it to go through another revision.
That's fine by me. As I said, the other two I was comfortable with, and given the rapidly changing climate of social media, I'm about 3 generations behind in even knowing the name of things. So I felt really in over my head trying to parse out whether this was all necessary. But
if I may address, I actually do think it's necessary because of the age of the firefighters, the technology that's used. I do think it's a good idea.
great. Chief, can we take this back, assuming that vehicle operations and ground ladders are pretty well in hand, it's a 2-week review posting, is that correct?
Yeah, we post drafts for 2 weeks to get it to comply with contractual reasons and to get everybody's input as well. So we try to get them out there as quick as we can, and we understand they weren't perfect when we got them out there, but we want to get some input and make sure we meet the requirements for the 2 weeks and get input. So we will.
I volunteer to work with you and Joe, if you'd like, on the social media one.
Sure. Yeah, we'll go through and give it another pass and shoot it off to everybody for second reviews again.
Great. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Chief. One last item before we go to public comment. There have been some developments in the arbitration case, and I believe, given the time limits, the contractual time limits for dealing with the arbiter, that we need to have an executive session. This developed after it was too late to change the agenda for tonight, or I actually would have put this on for tonight. So we need to find a time quickly for another meeting, which will be executive session to review these developments around the arbitration. I was looking at my calendar for potential times, and I can be available Friday of this week or Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week.
Same time? Are we thinking 5:30? Are we thinking same time?
I hadn't given time any thought.
Tuesday is probably the best for me, Chairman Pisano.
That's 18th.
The 18th.
Yeah, let me know. I'll make it work.
I'm not available on the 18th. Sorry, I had a
Okay.
family conference.
Monday could work as well, guys.
Would an earlier or later time make it more convenient, Adam?
No, but I'm reevaluating. The 17th or 18th are both good days.
Okay, and would we like to do this at the normal 5:30 time?
Yeah.
Okay, let's tentatively say we will meet at 5:30 for executive session.
On the chief's not available on the 18th, so it would be the 17th.
Monday, the 17th.
Yep.
uh,
Okay.
At 5:30. And we will post that meeting. All right, that concludes what I have. But if there's nothing else, I'd like to reopen to public comment. Cindy, if you're still there.
If she does, this is Carol Zace calling in. I heard someone mention something about stuff going on at, what is it, 56, 54 Main Street?
56 High Street.
High Street, yeah. I missed what that was.
Chief was discussing a training, firefighter training for venting and extraction. Is that right, Chief?
Yes, they're doing firefighter drills over there.
Do they go in the building and is it safe?
Yes, they're entering the building. Only the first floor. There are structural issues with the second floor. They're not doing anything on the second floor.
Is that responsive to your question, Carol?
Yes, thank you. I was just curious as to what it was.
Yeah, okay.
Are we allowed to come watch?
In this COVID day, I think that it would be done remotely. The chief had mentioned that he'll try to get cameras set up to record it and or to broadcast it live.
Cool.
All right.
Thank you.
I think you need to unmute.
Is that
Ms. Gardner.
Is that Cindy?
Yeah, I think so.
Cindy, if you're still there, you're muted. Chief, do you have the ability to unmute her?
I don't know. I can try.
Give it a shot. There you go.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for allowing me to have this time for public comment. I really appreciated tonight's meeting. I just wanted to clarify the article at last month's meeting that I was referring to was Article 11, Section 8 on page 14 of the bylaws. The other thing I wanted to mention, especially since you discussed sharing a vehicle with the water department. Has anybody reached out to Donald Groton of the Department of Revenue asking if the department funds can be spent on property not under their jurisdiction? I think that's a gray area that we really need to get clarified.
I'm not
And
sure I
then,
understand you.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Donald Gorton of the Department of Revenue made a ruling that money can't be used from department to department. And I wanted to clarify that to make sure how we can do things like that. So like, if we wanted to borrow a lawnmower from the water department, is that something we're able to do? Or if they want to borrow a vehicle, is that something that we can do? Or can we buy garage doors for the Prudential Committee? It's a gray area that I think we just need to have clarified, and that would be his jurisdiction. The other concern I have is at the Prudential Committee meeting, they discussed the VFIS policy deductible going from $1,000 to $10,000. And I was wondering when that was discussed among your board and how many times did we file a claim with them in the past 2 years? And how much money did the district receive in reimbursement? I was wondering if anybody's aware of any of that. And then my final concern is, we talked about promotion. I was under the understanding that we only did half the promotion exam in December of 2018 because there was no openings going forth, and that we would finish the promotional exam once there was an opening. Has that ever been finished? Those are my
Yes.
comments for this evening.
Yeah, just to that last point, yes, the promotion exam was conducted. When was that, Chief? That was late spring, early summer?
I think it was I can't remember when, but yeah, we did initial written, and then when it looked as though positions may become open, we brought in a private company and concluded the remainder of the promotional process.
So we have
Okay,
a current
thank you very
promotion
much.
list.
Okay.
All right. I believe that our legal opinion in regard to your concern about district expenditures across departments, I have confidence in it, but I have no problem with shooting a note to this Mr. Gorton and asking for his ideas.
I would appreciate that, just to clarify it.
With that, I would like to make a motion for adjournment.
Second.
In favor, Pisano.
Conley,
Zace.
Good night, all.
Good
Thank
night.
you for your participation.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks. Thank you, Chief.
you.